Today, I want to give you 5 reasons fasting will change your life. Fasting brings with it the intimidation factor and the legalistic factor. It's my goal today to get rid of both. I could just as easily give you 5 reasons not to fast. Who wishes I was preaching that? We don't have to fast to atone for sin or to get God to love us. We get to fast because he already did and he already does. We do not fast to magically manipulate the God of the universe into doing what we want him to do, like he's a cosmic vending machine. You do not put God into your debt by not eating. He is way more interested in who you're becoming than in what you're giving up. This is not religion, this is relationship. In church, everything for me about fasting changed when obligation gave way to invitation. The most basic definition for fasting I came up with is this: fasting, going without what you want to access what you need. Reason number 1, here we go. Because fasting realigns your soul. In John's 3rd letter, he says this: Beloved, just already, so sweet. Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you and that you may be in good health, period. Oh wait, no, Logan, comma. As it goes well with your soul. So I hope everything's going well with you, comma, as it goes well with your soul. This verse speaks to living with the proper alignment from the inside out. 1 Thessalonians 5, starting in 23. May God himself, the God who makes everything holy and whole, make you holy and whole, put you together, notice the order, spirit, soul, and body, and keep you fit for the coming of our Master Jesus Christ. So notice the order, spirit, soul, body. And as you're noticing this order, let me remind you the divine order of the Bible is divine, okay? So, spirit, that is the Greek word pneuma. You nerds are gonna love me for about 2 minutes, okay? The Greek word pneuma, which means the breath of God, the Spirit of God. And in case you're wondering, this is in fact synonymous with the Old Testament Hebrew word ruach that you will find all the way back in the very beginning when God formed the man out of the dust and the dirt, and Adam was there and he looked like Adam, lips, hips, and fingertips. His form was there, but he was lifeless until God breathed his breath into him. So, ruach or pneuma, Hebrew or Greek, you pick your poison, okay? This is the breath of God that, like Adam, animates the rest of you, animates your body over there on the right. That's the Greek word soma, AKA your flesh, your skin, your muscles, and your bones. And then in between the two is this word soul, the Greek word psyche, which basically is your character, your substance, or your personhood. Starting with your spirit, to your heart, to your mind, to the very body you're walking around in, and God, catch this, put your soul together in that specific order. Now, whether you followed any of that or not, all you need to know is this: we are designed to live from the inside out, okay? So remember that verse, deep calls to deep, that all of us love, but if we're honest, none of us have any idea what it means? The deepest part of me, my spirit, calls out to the depths of God. Ephesians chapter 3, Paul's prayer for you is, oh, that you would come to know, not intellectually, not because you read a book, but come to know by experience how deep God's love is for you. Like an ocean, deep calls out to deep. The Spirit of God in you knows and senses its true home is with the God who made you and gave it to you. Your soul, psyche, your substance is experiencing God because you are living and breathing and worshiping from the inside out, and from your depths, your spirit is coming alive and going, woo! Like I feel like I'm home right now. Deep calls out to deep. So I want to submit to you, the reason you might feel off is because you're not living from this divine order. Follow me. The world's pattern, one of them, is to live from the outside in. It just makes sense. But when you realign your soul and live from the inside out, your spirit comes home, deep calls to deep, and you find yourself walking in the rhythms of grace with God as the source, starting with your spirit and animating the rest of your life. Does this make sense? Now, this is where fasting comes in. Fasting is the realignment of your spirit and body. By denying your flesh something it wants, you awaken and strengthen your spirit to be the leading agent of your soul. And rather than living for what your body wants, you live from what your spirit needs, okay? Fasting realigns your soul. And that's key for reason number 2, which is this. Fasting taps you into the power to resist temptation. Fasting taps you into the power to resist temptation. The most powerful story of resisting temptation or fasting in the entire Bible has to be Matthew chapter 4, where Jesus is led by the Spirit into the wilderness to fast from food and water for 40 days. And that is when Satan comes to tempt him. Now, I used to read that and go, what a cheap shot. What a low blow that Satan would come in when Jesus is at his weakest. However, the opposite is actually true. He was physically weaker than he's ever been, but Jesus was stronger spiritually than he ever was in his life. Why? Because his soul was in perfect alignment. Fasting is not the power. Fasting is a fast track to the person who walked out of his grave and then claimed all power and authority in the entire universe now belongs to me. And I am telling you, as your body is weakened and your spirit is strengthened by a person, you find yourself conquering temptations you used to bow down to. Didn't Jesus once say to his disciples, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is what? Is weak. Here's that same verse in the Message. I love this. Stay alert and be in prayer so you don't wander into temptation without even knowing that you're in danger. There's a part of you, your spirit, that is eager and ready and willing for anything in God, but there's another part of you, your flesh, that's as lazy as an old dog sleeping by the fire. Fasting dethrones King Flesh. You deny your flesh and your spirit strengthens and steps up and says, I'm the captain now. I am now in charge. And just like Jesus being tempted in the wilderness, you start tapping into this power from a person, from God, animating your spirit from the inside out, and you find yourself way more often saying yes to the stuff you should say yes to and saying no to the things you should say no to. Fasting taps you into the power to resist temptation and conquer the mountains that you could not before. The same power, Christian, that conquered the grave lives in you. And though your flesh might be weak, I'm telling you, your spirit is willing and eager and ready for anything in God. And this God has plans for you. Oh, he has a calling on your life. Like Hebrews 12 would say, God has marked out a race for you to run. He has. And our friend Levi Lusko once said this: the key to going fast in that race, the key to going fast is fasting. Fasting gets you ready. In Matthew 17, Jesus' disciples met a man whose son is demon-possessed so badly. Picture how horrible this is. His son, demon-possessed so badly, daily seizures. When he'd see fires, he'd throw himself into the fire. He'd pitch himself into rivers. I mean, you want to talk about the exact opposite of the kingdom of heaven. And as hard as they tried, the disciples couldn't cast it out. They couldn't do anything about it. But then Jesus shows up and he takes care of business like Jesus does. And then verse 19 says, later, the disciples came to Jesus in private and they asked him, why couldn't we drive it out? Why couldn't we drive it out? Why can't I get past this? Why does it seem like breakthrough is just out of reach, right? Why can't we? Why can't I? You fill in the blank. And Jesus responded by saying this. He said, some things only happen by prayer and fasting. Fasting gets you ready because fasting gives you spiritual authority. I'm telling you, church, fasting might just be the difference between a breakdown and a breakthrough. That fasting sometimes is the difference between why couldn't we cast it out and what took place in Laguna Beach that night. That fasting might just be the difference between ordinary and extraordinary in your life. That fasting could just be the difference between almost and already. And can I just tell you how much I hate the word almost? I almost prayed for you. I almost sacrificed. I almost reached out. I almost invited. I almost got baptized. We almost had a church that changed our city. You guys, people are hurting and dying because of that word. Aren't you glad Jesus didn't almost die for us? I don't want to be part of an almost church. Paul said the days are dark, so make the most of every moment and be ready for every opportunity that might present itself to bring the kingdom of heaven to places where it's currently not. Fasting makes you ready, amen? Number 4, fasting gives you real rest. Jesus said some good stuff, he did, but I think some of his best stuff is Matthew 11. Here it is in the Message. Eugene Peterson's translation, he says, are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. And I'll show you how to take a real rest. Hey, did you know God required Israel to Sabbath one day a week? By the way, this invitation is still on the table. You know what Sabbathing is? It's fasting. Fasting from being a human doing to remind yourself that you're a human being and not God. So follow me. A restless soul, hey, hello. A restless soul believes, regardless of what I say or sing, the way I live, I show that what I really believe is I am the determiner of my destiny. And if I'm gonna get there, it's gonna be because I got myself there. So I can't stop, and I can't slow down, and I can't fall behind. And that's why resting is actually a brave act of trusting that God is sovereign and never sleeps nor slumbers. Because when you stop going, you find out firsthand the earth keeps spinning and God still works. And that, my friend, is where real rest is found. Jesus is saying, oh, come away with me. Let me be God. I'm good at it. Take a real rest, amen? Okay, final reason number 5, because fasting eventually leads to joy. I heard Tyler Staton, lead pastor of Bridgetown Church, say this: fasting starts in renunciation, but eventually it finishes in joy. And real joy, by the way, needs no help. And so when I take away the medication called carbs, or shopping to cure my boredom, or a bit of alcohol, a few drinks to relieve the pressures of life, or TV on in the background to fill the silence, and by the way, all good things, or at least neutral things. But when I take them away, I tap into the better thing. Song of Songs 1:2, for your love, God, is more delightful than wine.